I'm University of Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason. Thank you for joining us for this Farmdoc Daily webinar. Gary Schnitkey is here, agricultural economist from the University of Illinois, along with Laura Gentry. She's a water quality specialist with the Illinois Corn Growers Association and an adjunct in crop sciences here at the U of I. We're going to talk about the hidden cost of those extra tillage passes that might be taking place on your neighbor's farm, maybe even on your farm, and whether or not it's really worth it or not. Topics for the day include economics of machinery, tillage benchmarks, and PCM, which stands for Precision Conservation Management. Let's get started with the economics of machinery and PCM. A lot of information has been collected over the last decade or so. Gary Schnitkey, tell me a little bit about that, and the floor is now yours.
Oh, thank you, Todd, and thank you, Laura. And we're going to get started here with economics and machinery, the favorite topic of everybody. So in PCM, we collect every field pass that is done on the field, and that includes the tillage practices, the fertilizer passes, the chemical passes, and harvesting and planting. And then we put on each one of those passes a cost. And so those costs come from machinery from a particular cost, source, and that is our machinery cost estimates. So if you're looking at the machine, oh, there we go. Hey, we got her going now. If you're looking at the tillage passes, where we come up with those costs as well as the harvesting and the planting costs, they come from our machinery cost estimates. Those are available on Farmdoc. Dale Latz and I update those every other year. So we've just released our 2025 cost, which you see up here. This happens to be the summary, and we're looking at primary tillage. And we come up with a cost per acre for each field pass. In this case, the chisel plow, first row, has a $19.50 cost, and then we divide that out into various components, including tractor, implement, overhead, fuel and lube, and labor. And by the way, always the biggest one are the overhead items. You buy the equipment, the interest, depreciation, and repairs on that are almost always the biggest item. Over time, we change those cost of operations, and those cost of operations change as we update those costs. Here shows the first row from 2019, shows a chisel plow, and we're giving the chisel plow cost in 2019, $1,270, 2021, $1,360, 2023, $1,840, and 2025, $1,950. Again, if we did a chisel plow tillage pass in 2019 and 2020, it would have been charged at a rate of $12.70 per acre. That went up in 2021 to $13.60, 2023, $18.40, and 2025, it's going to be $19.50. And it will be the same in 2026. So you can see their tillage pass cost here and what they cost. I put up here some of the more common ones: vertical tillage, disc gripper, which always is anytime you go deeper and have a bigger tractor, the costs go up. Planter, you see the cost go there, and then the combining corn and soybeans. One of the things that happened between 2021 and 2023 is cost went up tremendously, and you can see here 1360 to 1840. That cost jump was large. You can particularly see those on combines where we went 1380, 3850 in 2021 up to 5070. So that was almost that was over a $12 increase. Almost all of that was because of large increases in the investment cost of new equipment. So when we put these costs together, we are basing that on new equipment, and we run those over acres that would appear to be pretty standard for that operation. Again, what we've seen is those costs really go up from 21 to 23. And you can see here, we're illustrating that for each one of the tillage passes here. And again, that big cost increase from 21 to 23, that was one of our largest cost increases that we have seen ever. And people are, and if you go back to that period, we remember that was the Ukraine-Russia affair, COVID, and that whole issue as well. Just a couple of other sources that confirm that same thing of those costs really going up during that period. Here is USDA estimates of tractor prices index, and this happens to have a value of 120.11, and you come over here, so this 123 is 23% higher than the 100 here. And you can see from 2021 to 2023, we went up from pick your starting point, but we were at 112 to when we went up to 138. So we've seen close to a 30% increase in cost during that one short period, and we don't see that coming down. Obviously, that translates then into higher cost on farms as we look at those cost increases. At the same time, those machinery costs went up. All the repairs also went up, and one can go to equipment dealer and buy used parts or try and get labor done and realize that all of that has went up. You again see that increase here in FBFM data. So we're just really reinforcing that fact that it isn't just PCM where we're seeing this data. We got outside sources, FBFM, as well as USDA saying that those tractor costs have increased. That obviously then makes every field pass become more expensive, and you're going to see some of those results as we go through some of these results today. Everything dealing with machinery has gotten more expensive, particularly after 21. One of the areas, again, this isn't going to impact necessarily tillage equipment, but one of the largest areas where we see those implement cost impacting is the cost of combine, and it has really increased the impact on acres on cost of operation. So just again to give you here, if we run 2,200 acres through a machine, this would be a pretty standard sort of machine. We'd have $62 of cost. It goes up as we get less than that, but you can see here we're getting pretty significant declines in price, particularly when we get out here to the 3,000 plus acres. Again, that 49 versus 62 is now $13 per acre, and that has become significant. Those costs have gotten again wider as those new machinery costs have gone up. So just to summarize here, and again, we're going to see this as we're moving through the PCM data, is that size matters and it has become more critical. With combine ownership with less than 2,000 acres, and I was wondering if I shouldn't put that at 3,000 acres. I mean, if you look at this chart,
I was going to ask that question.
3,000 acres, yeah.
It appears that one combine in 3,000 acres is about what you need as opposed to two.
Yep. So we've said 2,000 acres for a while, and we're still saying that, or I said it today, but it really is 3,000. So the other thing is it factors down to every piece of equipment. And before 2021, we saw a lot of farmers buy two planters and ran corn and soybeans at the same time. That strategy has become much more expensive. So, and the cost of tillage passes have increased, And Laura and I are going to show you some of the things. We have benchmarks that we typically do from 2015, or excuse me, 2015 to 2024 now. We're in our 11th year, and we're going to see those things probably change as we move through time. So just a note, those equipment costs have increased. By the way, at the same time, corn and soybean prices have come back down again. So here we are.
All right. Thanks, Gary. So the point of this webinar is just to help us all better understand, for corn production, for soybean production, what should we be thinking about in terms of profitability, but also we are a conservation program sponsored by the Illinois Corn Growers Association, partnered with the University of Illinois and other great partners. And our goal is to help farmers understand what these conservation practices could mean for them financially. And this is an environment where we can understand why, with the equipment costs that you just showed us, and just the machinery economics that we've been seeing since 2021, that reducing tillage and looking at reducing costs associated with all of our machinery costs is a good financial move. This is one of the worst financial ag economies we've seen since about 2010. And farmers need to be thinking about how to be, you say it all the time, Gary, a low-cost producer. So the data that we usually show when we summarize our different tillage benchmarks, also when we think about cover crops, or we think about nitrogen management for corn production, we often think about it in terms of our full data set, because we have this very unique data set. It goes back to 2015, but there's a lot of different stories embedded in those different years. And what we're seeing is that if we're making important economic decisions for 2025 and 2026 now, we need to be looking at the last 2 or 3 years more so, because that financial environment of low corn prices, high input cost, high machinery equipment costs has been more of the story since 2022, 2023, and now 2024, as we're thinking about 2025, what to expect and planning for 2026, more so than say 2016 or 2017, which was just a different kind of climate. So we have these most profitable fields. When we are looking at our most profitable corn fields, we break this out into our high SPR and low SPR. SPR is soil productivity rating, and we determine that's an evaluation of how profitable we think the soils of a field are, what it's likely that they can produce. And that is all determined by a University of Illinois Extension Bulletin 810, that was put out years ago by Dr. Ron Olson. We still use that. The soils haven't changed tremendously, and we use them for relative purposes. So those that's based on soil series. We assign those to every field, and a field with an SPR greater than or equal to 135 is considered high SPR, and anything less than 135 is low SPR. So what this here is showing you is that when we're thinking about corn, whether it's high SPR or low SPR, we are seeing the most profitable fields are falling into that one pass light category. And then we see these other tillage strategies here coming in at variable levels. But again, we are interested in more of the year to year variability now. Okay, so here we are again, just taking a look at those most profitable tillage strategies when averaged across all the years of the data set. And this is again just for the high SPR cornfields. And let's take a look at how we generate these values. We want to understand that so that we can make more sense of the year by year variation. And we generate these values and some other interesting ways that we can look at the data to be able to make more targeted and hopefully just more accurate predictions for best tillage strategies for our current economic climate. So what we see here, this circle, it's a data set. It represents a data set. And in this case, it's representing all of the high SPR cornfields in Illinois in the year 2022. That's what this is. So there were 1,158 high SPR cornfields in that year. But that circle could just as easily represent all the years of data representing our whole data set from 2015 to 2022. 2024, and that would be around 8,000 different fields. Or it could be, one region that we have, or it could be a different crop. There's any number of different ways that are interesting to look at. But in this case, we're looking at this one data set for the purpose of explaining this. And we can then parse these fields out according to their different PCM practice standards. So those practice standards are listed up there on the right-hand side. We could look at them by cover crops. We could say, of those 1,158 fields, how many of them had a winter terminal cover crop, or an overwintering cover crop, or no cover crop? What percentage? How did those break out? Or we could look at it by nitrogen management practices for corn. We could look at it by what was the nitrogen use efficiencies of these different SPR, these different high SPR corn fields, or the timing of nitrogen application, or the nitrogen rate classes. But actually, we are going to break it out by tillage practices. So for those 1,158 fields that we saw in 2022 for high SPR corn production, we saw them broken out this way. So we saw that 22% of all the fields in that year were no-till, 32% were strip-till, 26% were one-pass light, 9% were two-pass light, two-pass medium made up 10% of that full data set in 2022, and just about 2% of all of the 2022 high SPR cornfields were managed with more than 2 tillage passes. And just a real quick rundown of what I mean by those tillage classes. No-till is there was no tillage. Strip till means there was just a strip that was tilled in across the field, and that strip is anywhere usually from about as little as 8 inches wide to maybe 18 inches wide. And then the corn, or in some cases soybean, in this case corn, the seeds are planted directly into that strip. One pass light means that it was a full width tillage pass. There was just one of those, and it was with light or a low disturbance type of equipment, like a vertical till or a high-speed disc. The two pass light means it was 2 passes with a lighter piece of tillage equipment. So the 2 pass medium, and this is important, and unfortunately we also sometimes call this 2 pass moderate. We don't get our vocabulary always perfectly consistent there. But that 2 pass medium or 2 pass moderate means that there was one heavier piece of tillage equipment, usually a chisel plow, and then it was followed up by a lighter piece of equipment like a vertical till to smooth it out and make a good seed bed. And then 2+ tillage is everything else. So you'll see that again and again throughout our data set here. So back to our cornfields here. We do another really interesting thing as we are trying to evaluate these different strategies for tillage or other things. And that is that we take the fields, the high SPR cornfields, we take that whole, all the data, all the fields from that year, and we rank them for that year. All those high SPR cornfields, we rank from the most profitable field down to the least profitable field. And then we divide it up and we take just the top 25% of the most profitable fields, and we ask ourselves, what was different about those fields? Why are they more profitable? What was the strategy that was used on those? And so in this case, we've broken those that set of top 25% most profitable fields in 2022 out. And we found that for tillage, for tillage classes, 35% of those classes were no-till, 25% were strip-till, 23% were one-pass light. So you can see how we can see what the tillage strategies were for those most profitable fields. And we feel like that's really important to understand. What are the most profitable fields? How are they being managed? So what you see here is on the left, the big pie chart is showing those 1,158 fields again for 2022. All of those fields that were high SPR cornfields. And then the smaller one on the right is showing just the top 25% most profitable fields. And I chose this example of 2022 for a good reason. It demonstrated that there are years that we can really see certain practices being standouts, either good or bad. In this case, in 2022, no-till did really well in 2022. In the whole data set of those 1,158 fields, there were 259 that were no-till. That means that was 22% of the whole data set. But then when we went through and we just took out the top 25% most profitable fields, 105 of them, or 35% of those fields, were no-till. So if the tillage strategies all performed equally, if none were any better than the other, then the top 25%, the breakout would look exactly like the slide on the left. We would see the same proportions. So anytime we see that a certain tillage class like no-till is higher in the top 25% than it is in as a proportion of the whole fields, we know that it outperformed its expectations. So in this case, the no tillage in 2022 performed better than would have been expected if it had just done as well, if they had all performed equally. Another really interesting way that we can look at that is to say that of those 259 fields that were no-till fields that year for corn production on high SPR fields, 105 of them ended up in the most profitable fields category. That's 41%. And so 41% of the no-till fields in that top 25% most profitable data set, that's a strong indication that no-till performed very well in 2022 for Illinois. By the way, these are just all Illinois fields.
All right, so we're going to go through, and these are our budgets for our actual results for no-till, strip-till, one-pass light, one-pass light, two-pass light, two-pass moderate, and two-plus tillage pass systems. This happens to be from 2015 to 2024, so this is our entire data set. We're going to break this out in a bit here. But over this entire time period, and this is for corn, 18% of our fields were no-till, 20% were strip-till. By the way, over time, that 20% is increasing in later years, 33% one-pass light, and so on and so forth. So let's start with yields. Yield per acre on no-till was 221 bushels per acre on average. Over this entire time period, if you're looking at it, strip-till, pretty much all of the strip-till, or excuse me, all of the tillage passes had a higher yield than no-till. And in the case of strip-till and one-pass lights, it's $3, or excuse me, 3 bushels per acre on average. So you can do the math. 3 bushels per acre if you're times 4, which is be the price that we're looking at today. That's $12 of extra revenue over time. That would have been that 3 bushel difference would have been much higher in 2020 and 21 when we were looking at $5 and $6 per acre. All right, so let's then go down to direct cost. $447 per acre, and this would be seed, chemical, fertilizer, herbicides, etc. So these are our major crop input cost. And I want to point out here, strip-till has a 3 bushel advantage, but for whatever reason, our direct cost are $20 per acre higher. Why that is a good question. Frankly, in early years of strip-till, we saw a lot of more nitrogen being put on strip-till fields than no-till. We often wonder if we had those closer to one another, the strip-till would have looked just as good as the no-till. And we would really like to see that because there's a lot of economic advantages here, or environmental advantages to strip-till. Field work, $22 per acre, and this is field work, $0 for strip-till, $22 per acre. That's a bit higher than our strip-till cost because a number of farms or fields within our farm had double passes, one strip tillage pass in the fall and then a freshening pass in the spring. All right, so then you come down and that causes our operator and land return, our measure of profitability. It's less for strip till. Again, a lot of that has to do with this $20 higher increase in direct cost.
Do you see that having come down?
We've seen that coming down in recent years. Okay, strip till strip till with just a strip till and sort of a, keeping MRTN will compete with no till. And again, you got to keep one pass here. All right. One pass. Sorry about this. I got it. So yield per acre, 224, 229, 229. Again, higher than no-till. Again, for the direct costs, we saw that actually lower for one pass light. Two pass light goes up. For whatever reason, the farmers that do two pass light also want to put more nitrogen and other fungicides on and then have higher cost. They also have higher field work. So one pass light actually has the highest cost, and then we go down. Over this entire period, one pass light would have had our highest return. And again, this is in corn. But again, we're going to talk a little bit about this moving forward, this 347. And again, just our estimated soil loss. And as you expect, we make higher tillage passes, we get higher amounts of soil loss. And Laura can explain those small differences there, but they're just there.
Yeah, there's not a lot to explain there. Would like to just mention that those were. So did just want to quick mention our partners on some of our environmental analyses here we use for the soil loss and several others that we report directly to our farmers and their reports. We have a suite of different metrics that we use from field to market. That's one of our partners. And for our greenhouse gas emissions information that we share back to our partners and our farmers, we get that from the Cool Farm analysis. And just it's pretty clear, less tillage, and we have both lower soil loss and lower greenhouse gas emissions. And none of the revenue nor any of the operator and land return, the net profitability that we're showing here includes any kind of incentive payment that a farmer might be getting for participating in either a private program or a government program like NRCS. So keep that in mind. So some of these conservation practices could be higher on a per acre basis when we think through what is available out there for conservation payments.
Before you go forward, there are a couple of questions that have come in that are related to this particular slide. Somebody had made note that the soil loss estimate for strip till is lower than for no-till, and want to know why.
So there's other things that go into that, and some of that would be some of those are field specific, such as the slope of the fields, etc. So there might be some no-till high SPRs that are going into or that have more slopes than the strip till. By the way, that 6.8 versus 0.63 is not much.
No, that would not be a significant.
And we have the same question. The further up you go, the line between one pass and two pass too. Why is one pass greater loss than two pass? And
again, it has to do with the fields that are using it. And again, 1.93 for one pass light versus 1.83 for two pass light is not that different. We also have in here different. So one pass light might be using a disc versus another sort of machine, which also impacts what is left on the surface as well. So we're summarizing that one pass light, but there's like 10 different machines that we categorize that go into there. So what if so few farmers use no-till and strip-till? We actually see more farmers use strip-till on soybeans. And honestly, our results are closer for corn than
how do you define the strip-till on soybeans? Is that actually making a strip, or is that a
this
fall,
is corn
or,
by
or is that a fall pass?
It's not some people ask me that's anhydrous.
That was my question. Is it?
No, we actually ask the farmer if they're using it as if they have an implement that's designed as a
strip till. So a strip till is you're making
actually a strip till.
You're making
it's an actual pass.
Strip till. You're building a strip or you're clearing a strip, and then you're going to plant into that strip.
Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So I want to get through a few things there. And then as a quick recap, did want to talk about how we are looking at these. What Gary just showed you, that was all of the years of our whole data set. And based on that, you would look at it and you say, well, it looks like one pass light is probably the way to go for corn production. And we're going to see just how looking at every year individually and thinking about which years might be more relevant or more reflective of the coming years that we're most interested in making decisions for, how that can be a really insightful way to look at the data. So assessing tillage performance by year. First of all, this is a recap of what we showed just a minute ago in those pie charts, but we consider all the fields within a given year. And we would call all of those fields, we might call it high SPR corn 2022. And then we parse that whole data set out by tillage class. What percentage was no-till? What percentage was strip-till, etc. Now, we rank all of those fields from the most profitable using the operator and land return metric, from most profitable all the way down to least profitable to look at profitability. And then we just pull out that top 25% most profitable fields, and we use that to create a different data set called high SPR corn 22. So that top 25% most profitable fields comprises a new data set called high SPR corn 22. Then we take that data set and we parse it out by tillage class. What percentage of those most profitable fields were being managed with no-till, with strip-till, with one-pass light, etc. And then we compare the values among these two, among the tillage classes between the full data set and the most profitable data set. If the relative proportion for one tillage class, say no-till, is larger in that most profitable data set than it is in the full data set, we conclude that the tillage class performed better than expected. And also, this is just another kind of fun way to look at it. If more than 25% of all the fields from, say, from one tillage class, say from no-till, in that full data set are also present in the top 25% most profitable fields, well, that indicates that that tillage class was well represented among the most profitable fields. A little bit different, but related. Now, just for the sake of being able to get through all this data in a reasonable time frame, we're just going to focus really on this metric here in the next couple of slides, whether or not the individual tillage class was represented well, whether more than 25% of all of the total fields ended up in that most profitable data set is what we're going to look at. But we've looked at it in all different ways, and our conclusions that we offer at the end reflect the whole assessment here. So this is fun. So what we're looking at here, in the very top row, we see our crop years, 2015 to 2024. Now the next row, it's a general assessment of the early season plant conditions for that growing season. This is for high SPR. So I made an effort to really summarize it for northern and central Illinois, where we see most of our higher SPR fields in the state of Illinois. And it's general. It's not the easiest thing to do, but obviously this is an important factor for tillage performance. It also impacts planting date every year, which impacts yields. So that impacts total profitability in a given year. So that needs to be taken into consideration. We do a heat mapping idea here where green is good, yellow is average, and red is poor. And we do that for each year in that row. So obviously 2019, everybody remembers no plant 19. That was the red year, the worst year in terms of early spring conditions. And then we had our dark green years there of 2016, 23, and 2024. Those were good. I consider those good planting conditions. So you can see the heat map method there. We do the same thing in the next row for the full season conditions. What were the full season conditions there? What were the limitations? Okay, so then the next row there is showing average yield for that year within the whole PCM high SPR corn data set. So in the year 2015, we see that the average yield, there we go, our average yield in 2015 across our whole high SPR corn data set was 204 bushels per acre. And so we see those average yields for every year, again, with the red, yellow, green indicators for highest and lowest. For the next row here, our fourth row, we see our August corn price, just to give some indicator of what corn prices were across time. And then this last color-coded row here is our average profitability. This is, again, for that individual year, for the whole highest PR corn data set. So in 2015, the average profitability for that whole data set in 2015 was $220 an acre. So, and more indicators for moving across what our best years were. Very bright green years for 2021 and 2022. Those were just really profitable years. Now, what we're seeing in these last three rows, what we're indicating here is we pulled out the three most commonly represented tillage strategies from that full data set, and we asked, what percentage of all of the fields from this tillage class are represented in the top 25% most profitable fields? So we felt that if it ranked below 25%, then it wasn't really being that well represented among the most profitable fields. And really, in fact, we thought that a tillage class should really have at least 28 or 29% of all of its fields in the most profitable fields data set to be considered really notable. So that's what we're highlighting here in the blue. We also put a little more weight on our more recent years as we're thinking through this, because we feel that 2025 and 2026 are going to be more likely to be like 2022 and 2023 and 2024. So taking a look here, the first one up is One Pass Light. And looking at our full high SPR corn data set, most of the fields were managed this way. If you remember from the slide that Gary was talking about 30% of all of the Illinois high SPR cornfields were managed with One Pass Light. So we should expect for it to have at least 30% representation among those most profitable fields. However, it really only outperformed expectations in 3 out of the 10 years, 2016 and 2018 and 2024. And we should probably go ahead and just mention that it really did do quite well in 2024. So that means it may very well be a good tillage strategy. That One Pass Light might be a very good tillage strategy for 2025 or 2026 too. But now let's take a look here at our strip till. Looking across here, strip till is the second most common tillage class in that full data set. It represents a little over 25% of all the high SPR cornfields. So we should really expect for strip till fields to show up in at least 25% of those profitable field subsets. But strip till really, it actually only outperformed expectations, meaning it only got above 25 or 26% in 2 out of the 10 years. That was 2016 and here in 2019, which was that one very wet year. So that could have some artifacts in it too. Overall, strip till just did not really, it was not quite as profitable as we would have expected on the high SPR fields. Some folks will argue that we could be assigning a price that's a bit too high for some of the machinery costs, but that's a Gary Schnitkey and Dill Latz question, so I'll leave that to them to figure out. But finally, no-till. No-till here in that full data set, it actually makes up a little less than 20% of all of the high SPR corn acres in that data set, but we see it being used more and more in recent years, in 2022, 2023, and 2024, and it has performed really well in those years. And since we think that 2025 and 2026 are likely to be more similar in terms of price and input costs, we would say that no-till was more profitable than expected in 4 out of 10 years. And this is really notable, and especially since 3 of the most recent years are years that no-till performed quite well. So
I would note that 22, 23, and 24 is when we've also began noticing the much higher machinery cost in our data as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. So looking now at corn low SPR, we'll take a look at those. Again, this is just breaking it out in terms of those top 25%. And as we saw with the high SPR cornfields, again, One Pass Light is the most common tillage strategy in the top 25% most profitable data set. It actually is not the most common tillage strategy in the whole low SPR data set. That actually, that distinction goes to no-till, which represents about 35% of all the low SPR corn acres. But one-pass light comes in second, representing about 30% of all of those corn acres. And I'll turn this slide of all year data over to Gary.
All right, so this is the same thing that we saw before. We're using all years 2015 to 2024. We had a question. So why does farmers use no-till and strip-till? Actually, we have in our data set 23% of no-till, 14% strip-till. So we do see a number of farms using strip-till. I would note that our tillage practices have been pretty much the same for the last 20, 30 years, and tradition has a lot to do with that, but we do see no-till and strip-till. And again, I would also note that prior to probably 2020, the one pass and two pass systems have been more profitable, suggesting, maybe that's another reason why we see farms using that. Again, no-till 193, we do see some sort of tillage having some advantage here. We see direct cost, our direct cost for whatever reason, our strip-till fertilizer seed, and again, that number there is a lot of that is a fertilizer. And then coming down to our field work, again, we have $0 of field work, 21 for strip-till, and again, that's higher than just a one pass because a number of operators used a freshening pass, but 12. This goes up to 26, 28, and then 40. And in this case, we see this two-pass light having our highest return over all those years. Again, that is mainly due to this much higher yield here, 207. For whatever reason, our one-pass light systems had 207 return. Our two-plus passes had a higher return, but the higher cost associated with field work didn't cover those costs.
And you can see those environmental metrics down there at the bottom. And we see, just like we saw with high SPR, that less tillage, no-till and strip-till, has lower soil erosion estimates and lower greenhouse gas emissions. One thing I wanted to add on there about the question about why do we see so little no-till and strip-till, it could be the last 3 years we have had very good yields, very good corn yields. And that produces a lot of crop residue, and a lot of farmers feel that they have so much crop residue that it makes planting a challenge for soybean or corn the next year, and they feel that they need to do some light tillage to size up that corn residue, get it broken down so that it decomposes faster and it's not as much of a problem to plant into in the spring. Those are part of it. Also, just the invention of high-speed discs and vertical tillage really caught on and did a beautiful job of sizing up tillage residue. So that machinery equipment invention probably pushed out some of the no-till and strip-till acres we might have otherwise seen.
By the Census of Agriculture, which was taken in 2022, there were 6.44 million acres of no-till in the state. So not a small number. And that's no-till only, not no-till and strip-till.
Right. And a lot of those could be more in Southern Illinois. So we might, if you're driving from Champaign from Chicago to Champaign, you might not have seen a lot of those. So that's something we have observed among the farmers we talk with. So there we go. Thank you. So here we are again now for this low SPR table looking at tillage strategies. I tried to represent that early season weather differently here. What I'm showing here in this first row, early spring conditions, this is low SPR, and it's not entirely fair to just attribute that to Southern Illinois. There are plenty of low SPR fields in the upper 2/3 of Illinois. However, we see more of them in Southern Illinois, and this is just a harder thing to do anyway, trying to estimate with a color and a couple of words what the early spring conditions were for every individual year, but I did my best here. There were some trends, and that's all this is meant to do, is give relative ideas of early spring planting conditions each year and the in-season conditions that could have affected yields. So we see here average yields again for, this is again the whole data set for each individual year for corn low SPR. Our August corn prices, this is the same across the state. This would have been the same numbers that we saw in the previous slide on high SPR. And then the average profitability, of course, is different. This reflects just the corn low SPR average profitability for each individual year. So that's what we see there. Now, jumping into our different tillage strategies, what we saw here. For low SPR cornfields, we are representing again one pass light and strip till and no till, as we did with high SPR. And as I mentioned, one pass light represents about 30% of all of our low SPR corn acres in our full data set. So we should expect for those fields to show up somewhere north of 30% in the top 25% most profitable fields if they did especially well. And I was a little surprised to see that one pass light did not perform that well since 2017. It did really well in 2015 and 16 and 17, but it hasn't done especially great since 2018. It keeps showing up because there's a lot of fields that are using, as I just mentioned, the vertical tillage or the high-speed disc. A lot of farmers are using that on their fields, but it does not seem to be consistently showing up in recent years as one of the front runners for tillage. For strip till, we see strip till doing very well for corn production on these low SPR fields in recent years, which is important because it really did outperform where we would have expected it to have shown up there. So I think that was about 25% of all of the total acres were in strip till in this low SPR data set, and we see it showing up quite a bit higher here in these years, especially in these recent years. And then, and finally, no-till did well in 2022 and in 2024, and it might do even better in 2025 and 2026, depending on corn prices and input costs. So no-till, please just keep in mind, no-till is a critical component of being a low-cost producer, which is really important in this kind of a farm economy. So sum that up, one pass light performed well in a low price, lower cost environment like 2015 and 2017, but it didn't do as well in a lower priced and higher cost environment like we're seeing in 2022, 23, and 24. Strip till performed really well in 5 out of the 10 years, including the 3 most recent years. So it is the standout for this data set. And then no-till also did well in 3 out of the 10 years, and we might expect to see it doing a little bit better in 2025 and 2026 if trends in corn prices and costs continue. Oh, more fun, soybeans. All righty. I'll just go through this quick and then turn it over to Gary. So top 25%, this is just a quick summary of the top 25% most profitable fields. The dark blue is our higher SPR soybean fields, and the lighter blue is the lower SPR soybean fields. And we see a lot of no-till. Take a look at that one bump there for two-pass medium in the soy high SPR, because we are going to be coming back to that and dig into that more in the following 2 slides.
So here is our soybean high SPR average results from 2015 to 23. Starting again with yield per acre and no-till at 68. We have actually 73. So we do see a bit of a yield advantage for some sort of tillage. Again, coming down to direct costs, 182. Our strip till, for whatever reason, are having higher direct cost again. This time it is fertilizer. It's pretty evenly divided off fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, actually. And then one pass light. These systems have actually lower direct costs than what we see for the no-till systems. Overall, then coming down, and we had a 427 return for operator land return for no-till. By the way, that was made up 43% of our fields here. And then our one pass light, our our operator and land returns were higher for our tillage pass systems. Part of that is because they did have a bit lower direct costs, but those yields came into that as well. So we actually do see more no-till in corn going into soybeans, which this would be predominantly of. But we see those tillage pass having some advantage here for corn.
I'd like to just point out quick too, if I may, that this two-pass moderate, just look at, there's about 7,000 fields in this data set, and 1,100 of them, right around 15% of them are this two-pass moderate. That's sort of important to point out here, but it does have this 2 bushel per acre yield advantage, like you pointed out there, Gary. So now taking a look.
You're going backwards.
I am. Am I still? No.
Oh, you're going, no.
Here we are. So here we are again looking at our soybean high SPR. This is looking at those tillage strategies. And I think now we're familiar with what these different heat maps say, but we really wanted to focus on the 2-pass medium tillage, no-till, and strip-till. Those were the more interesting and the more prevalent tillage strategies that we saw in the full soybean high SPR data set for all years. And this is just like hits you right in the face. It's so interesting. This 2-pass medium class. So 2-pass medium, bear in mind, that is 1 pass with a heavier piece of tillage, a more intensive disturbance type of equipment, and then a lighter piece of equipment like a field cultivator or a vertical till to smooth out and make a good seed bed. We are seeing that show up. Even though it only makes up about 15% of the total data set, it is making up in the high 30s up into the 40s in terms of its prevalence in the most profitable fields. And that is really just very, very interesting. So it's definitely outperforming its expectations. And the difference between these tillage strategies, between the 2-pass medium and either no-till or the 1-pass light, it's really just yields, because the cost for the additional tillage pass can be seen in what Gary was just showing you. So before you jump right into this, it might be prudent to ask yourself if you really are confident that you can get an extra 2 to 5 at least bushels per acre soybean in addition before making a move to more tillage. And just remind you, on the other hand, there's also not a big difference here between looking at where'd we go here, down here, this 448 in terms of net profitability and like the 1-pass light or the 2-pass light. So not really really big differences there. And if you are able to get a small incentive payment for reduced tillage, or maybe a larger payment for moving into no-till, that could be a good move for you. So, in conclusion, 2 passes with a mix of heavier and lighter tillage equipment, it just was the strongest performing tillage strategy in our data set. It hurts a little bit to say that because of always trying to encourage farmers to consider reduced tillage, but it just performed better than expected in 8 out of the 10 years that we saw.
So now we're going to do the soybean low SPR, and we got the same sort of story here. 58% of these are no-till. Coming down here, we see a bit more mixed results as far as yields. We see 62 bushels for no-till, and coming down here, $363 return for no-till. Our 1-pass light was slightly below that, and our 2-pass systems were about $10 above that. Again, those 2-pass systems in our system did have a bit higher returns than our no-till. Again, $26 and $28, and again that would be increasing in later years as we increase those field operating costs.
Looking here now at our soybean low SPR tillage assessment, we are taking a look at 1-pass light, 2-pass light, and no-till. And really, there weren't a whole lot of really clear trends in this, at least in recent years. We do see that 1-pass light or the 2-pass light in some cases did well, but there weren't any real standouts. Those 1-pass and 2-pass light performed overall a little bit better than no-till. No-till could be competitive with incentive payments of $10 an acre or more. There's an idea that maybe non-GMO or something that receives a price premium could do well. On the other hand, that might be the reason that no-till is not performing quite as well. Gary, you actually had this thought that these non-GMO or non-Roundup ready crops, that we manage the weeds with tillage more likely than we do in our Roundup ready crops. That could be having a negative impact on the no-till category too. So a couple of things that are all interacting there. And I believe we are to our summary here. So for corn production on our higher SPR fields, what we found is that no-till has been the strongest tillage strategy in the last 3 years. And for corn production on lower productivity fields, no-till and strip-till have been the strongest tillage strategy in recent years. No-till and strip-till both did very well. We see that 2 passes of tillage did pay for itself in many cases in terms of higher yields for soybean production on those just exclusively on our high SPR soils and just for soybean production. But that was interesting. And for soybean production on our lower SPR fields, it looks like 1 pass and 2 pass tillage systems may be our best bets, may be the most profitable there. Then we'll wrap up here with just another all years slide, taking a look at our most profitable fields and those tillage strategies.
And again, we turn this over to Todd, and you tell us who help us do this all.
Well, we always are very thankful for those who sponsor the Farmdoc team, Farmdoc website in particular. They include the TIA Center for Farmland Research, CoBank, Compeer, Farm Credit Illinois, FS Growmark, the Illinois Corn Growers Association, the Illinois Soybean Association, and John Deere. Our educational partners, of course, are the University of Illinois College of Agricultural, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences, the Department of Agricultural and Consumer Economics, Illinois Extension, FBFM, or the Farm Business Farm Management Record Keeping Service in the state, and the Gardner Agriculture Policy Program. You can always find these programs anytime you'd like on our website at farmdocdaily.illinois.edu. And they'll be up later this afternoon, this particular one, thanks to Jim Baltz behind the scenes at YouTube. That's youtube.com/@farmdoc. Can you get some copies of the slides is a question we have. Easy enough to answer. So if you're looking at the desktop, you'll see on the desktop or a smaller device up on the desktop in the right-hand corner, a clip, a small paper clip. You can download the slides right now. If you're on a smaller device, that's under the 3 dots in the bottom right-hand corner. And of course, you can always get the slides on our website as well after the fact. You look for farmdocdaily.illinois.edu and then look in the webinar and archives section for the slides. Other questions that we ought to ask before we finish up our day?
This is interesting. At what point will the productivity index have to be revised down on farms that are tilled and experience losses? That's a good question.
That's a soil scientist question.
That's
and it's related to the second question that we have, which is with conservation plans in place for about 30 years, are those plans still being adhered to? Kind of think it depends on which plans you're talking about. In the state of Illinois, there's a conservation plan that IDOA had in place that may have had to do with crop insurance. I can't quite recall.
If you farm HELL land, highly erodible, and I don't even know what the highly erodible land, to stay in compliance for both crop insurance and for farm payments, you do have to follow those plans that and they are adhered to in general, I would say.
They are.
And so yes, those plans remain in place and are followed.
Related to that, of course, you would have to know what the background loss is to just, and that would differ by acre, but there is a formula that the IDOA has had for a very long time, since the early 1980s when the T by 2000 program was first put into place. And I don't know, maybe not. Well, we'll see whether they would have to be downgraded at some point.
That was the career, those soil productivity ratings and that document. That was the career of Dr. Ron Olson, and
Right.
it was a
Kent
long
Olson.
career. And he spent a lot of time. It would take another dedicated type of
Individual to
person
do that.
to do that, to do an individual assessment that looked at soil degradation and loss and reduced soil productivity. That's not an easy question.
We are coming up at the top of the hour. Thank you very much, Gary Schnitkey and Laura Gentry, for being with us. And to Jim Baltz, who's behind the scenes today, thank you to all of you for being here for the webinar. And be sure to pass this along to others. If you found it of interest, you can always check it out on the Farmdoc Daily website at farmdocdaily.illinois.edu or on YouTube at youtube.com/@farmdoc. For University of Illinois Extension, I'm Todd Gleason.